Yeah, this is the second part of how to create a life vision that sticks. The first talk, I was going through a lot of stuff talking about, finding out what your values are, thinking about your why are you doing things, and, trying to build a vision for yourself and creating goal sets in order to hijack your dopamine system, so to say. So in order to really use your dopamine system to help you stay on that path. And I call it a guide to conscious decision making, because to me it really is about, like, what is it that I want and why do I want it? And so the first part today will dive a little bit into that to, just recapture the most important parts, or the parts that we need today from last time. And after the last talk, I got a couple of questions from people who were like, "Hey, I really liked your talk, but like, I have so many ideas, I have so many potential visions for myself. How do I choose the right one?" As I got, yeah, I mean, that's definitely a fair question, and I can't tell you what the right one is. It's something that you have to find out for yourself. But what I can do, I can give you my experience, and I can tell you what I believe will give you the biggest jolt of energy and the most likely path to happiness and fulfillment. I just want to dive back into the human needs thing, because I think it's really the core of who you are and what you want in life, and how you create your values. And to me, I mean, there are other people like Tony Robbins, for example. He says there are 6 human needs. I think that these 4 are really the basic human needs. And if you talk about other needs, then they will all like somehow relate to one of these 4. And when you look at them, they kind of, they're very like seemingly opposing forces. When you look at certainty and uncertainty, like, okay, I need certainty and I need uncertainty. Like, that's strange, but it's always in life, there's like two sides of a coin. Certainty and uncertainty are basically, you need them, and you need to balance them out. So certainty is, having a family, having a safe job, something that you can rely on, or like even a close circle of friends. And uncertainty is the adventure, exploring, finding something new. And the same for being unique, being yourself. And the common part is more about being part of something bigger, like society or a group of people or a bigger family. So like being part of a bigger system. And so this set of basic human needs is always describing your set of values, because I mean, in the end, these values are an expression of what you need as a human being. Some people, they're more on the uncertainty side, like I am. Like I value freedom over everything, and autonomy, and but of course I also need certainty. But to me, exploring and adventure are more important. So they have a slightly bigger value in my system. And outside of that, I would say there are beliefs, and I think it's sometimes really hard to distinguish between, is it really a core value of mine, or is this just a belief? Some beliefs are, I have to have a career, I have to make a lot of money, I have to build a house, I have to, build a family. I mean, these are all, I would say good things, so to say, but I would, maybe if you have these ideas, then maybe think about it a little more deeply, why you have these ideas. And maybe this is just something that, you think because your parents said that, or because society wants it. And I mean, this is definitely a process, and it's nothing you can just, put on paper and then that's it. That's something you need to really think about more deeply and reflect. But that's not part of the talk today. So as I said, for me, that's certainty, for example, family. Uncertainty is adventure. For me, being unique and is also has something to do with being autonomous. And to me, like a human need is also like being of service. I want to give back to my community. And yeah, today I want to make the case that, you know, you in our society, like if you have a decent job, if you earn good money, then you can basically do anything you want. I mean, not all people on this planet can say that, you know, they don't have the privileges that we have. But at the same time, you know, like being able to choose from anything, you know, sometimes sends you down the wrong path. And I mean, I've been on that path for way too long, and I would say I didn't have a purpose, and I would also say that I didn't really have virtues, or like giving back to society or any moral virtues. I mean, I always felt that I, you know, I want that, but I didn't really live it that way. And you know, yeah, bad values. What are bad values? I mean, to me, bad values are like connected to a pleasure driven personality. So I would, you know, value pleasure over a lot of things. But when you look on the other side, you know, then and you see the word effort driven at the bottom, then this really is something that is very deeply connected to your dopamine system. So your dopamine system, you know, it works for, of course, pleasure. I mean, the cocaine addict or even the workaholic will get a lot of, you know, cocaine from these little bursts of pleasure. But as I said in the first talk, it's if you want to get on the right path, to my mind, you have to connect your dopamine system more to the effort, to the path, to the journey, not to the goal. Because if you understand and if you relearn that system, if you really attach your dopamine jolts to the effort you put into something, the effort into reaching a valuable goal, then that process will become automatic at some point, and you will get away from, you know, wanting to eat junk food, play PlayStation, you know, whatever it is that gives you a lot of pleasure. And I'm not saying you're not supposed to play PlayStation. You know, I like to play PlayStation every once in a while with a friend, but then it's also connected to, you know, like socializing, for example. And I won't do it for a whole night, but maybe for an hour or two. So I think that's totally fine. But on the right side, I mean, good values. What are good values? I mean, that's also, you know, a little bit subjective. That's maybe, you know, what you think are good values. But then there's things like civic and moral virtues, like who do you want to be in society, and you know, do you have some? Do you expose something of yourself that, you know, you wouldn't need to do because you're comfortable and you have a lot of money and you can just, you know, sit at home, do nothing, but instead you choose to be useful to other people, to society, to your community, whatever. And in that, I would say you can even find a higher purpose in your life. And that to me really is the difference between the left and the right side. And I want to dive into that more deeply now. I mean, last time I said the 3 tools of consciousness are thought, words, and action. And I mean, these 3 tools that, you know, you have to create your reality, they are sometimes not aligned. Maybe your thought is already going in the right direction. And you say, I would like to, you know, give back to my community. Otherwise, I would like to do something, but then you don't. And I was there for a long time. And so maybe your words are also, you know, pointing in a different direction. You say something to be cool, or, you know, like so that other people perceive you in a different way, because you want to, you know, play a role. I did that for a long time, working in the startup world in Berlin. I always wanted to be a successful startup consultant, you know, and I wanted other people to perceive me as an alpha male. Complete bullshit, I know, but you know, that's the truth. And then of course your actions will follow in the same direction. And of course you will surround yourself with people like that, and you will get into situations like that. So there's a lot of weight pulling you into that direction without you even doing something. And yeah, to me, it's really about trying to push as many items as possible to the right side. You can start with words, like say what you think. If you think that this is not a good thing to do, then or to say, then maybe try to imagine what it is that you could do instead to get to the right side. Same with your actions, and that will automatically bring you into different situations. And what you will feel on the left side, and I can tell you for sure, is total meaninglessness. You won't feel any motivation to do anything, and depression and anxiety are just a natural, to me, just a natural result of following that path for way too long. And I mean, if you ask me, depression and anxiety are not illnesses. They are just an expression of yourself, or just a warning signal of your system to tell you, like, hey, you've been walking down that path for way too long. It's time to get on the other side. I mean, there might be people in this world, or even people who are listening to this talk, who identify themselves with maybe depression or anxiety, and they say, no, I'm depressed, and this is something I need to take pills for this. I mean, of course, follow the path that doctors will give you, but maybe think about this for a second or two, maybe a minute or two, and maybe you will find some truth in this. I can only talk for myself, and I know that whenever I do something that is on the right side of this graph, it will give me a lot of motivation, and I will find meaning in even the smallest things that I'm doing that are on the right path. And I will get extreme motivation. Even this talk, right? I mean, this beginning of this year in January, I was super depressed. I just got back from 3 months trip with my camper through Portugal, and I got back to lockdown and cold weather in Germany, and I'm still dealing with this whole anxiety thing. But to me, it really is a warning signal. And I got back into doing meaningless work for money, and the beginning of this year was it was just super intense. And what got me out of it was the first talk, the vision talk. I did it because I felt that I needed to do something that will push me on the right side. And I was super motivated for a week. Then I gave the talk, and I was super happy I did it. And then got back into a slump because I didn't follow up on what I wanted to do. So 3 months later, I mean, it's April now, even 3 months later, I'm doing this talk, and I feel the same thing again. So I can definitely say that whenever I do something that is taking me on the right side, and that's different for everyone, like for me, it's talking to people, it's exposing my truth, it's communicating what I think is a good thing to do, and that's my thing. That's my higher purpose, to help other people see their own truth and find their own potential, and help them out of shitty situations. And that's the inherent truth that I find in myself, and it really makes me lighthearted and happy. And the funny thing is that the crazy energy that I feel with depression and anxiety, that is trying to, or at least it feels like hey, your life is over, this is it, the same energy I feel when I'm on the right side, but it's a different interpretation. The interpretation now is I'm super excited, I can feel this energy, but it gives me a lot of motivation, and it gives me a lot of creativity, and that to me is really a gift that I got from life. But I mean, I can't recommend going down the left path until you are deep down in your shit. Maybe you can get to the right side a little earlier if you do the work with yourself and think about these things more deeply. And so what your brain always does is it is trying to predict the future. So whenever you set your mind to something, and it doesn't matter what it is, your brain is calculating duration, path, outcome. So it means like, how long does it take? What's the path towards that goal? And what is the outcome? Your brain is a very passive machine, I would say. It's your mind controlling it. And to me, it really is all about getting back the control of your mind and making your brain do what you want it to do. And the most important part to me, or the interesting part, is the feedback loops that you get from creating your own vision or creating goals. So as soon as you set the goal, your brain will calculate duration, path, outcome, and then your consciousness will get information from that. So you see yourself in the future doing this, and you're like, yeah, this makes sense. This is a great business idea because, like, then I can do this and that, and I can talk to this guy and that guy, and then I will get investment from, this VC. So this is a very conscious thing, but I would say, it's just half of the truth, because there's also an unconscious feedback loop, and it will give you, a feeling of like, how will I feel in that moment? And sometimes it's something that some people are not really very connected to. They don't listen to their guts, and they maybe have like a feeling they want to, for example, they want to get into some business relationship, and they have the feeling of like, that dude's a little fishy, something's off with this guy. And then, but your consciousness says like, no, it makes total sense. This is a great business idea, and there will be, like, we will make a lot of money. And then, 2 months later, you find out that this guy was actually a crook, and your feeling was right. So I would say always, think deeply about what it is that you want to do, and use your rational mind to analyze the situation. But don't forget about, the unconscious feedback loop, and, what your body, what your system is telling you, because you're more than just your rational thought. Your body, like, there are so many nerve cells in your body. It's not just the brain. The brain is connected to everything in your body, and your guts and your heart even have, like, I don't know, your guts, I think, have like 40,000 nerve cells. So they people call it the mini brain, but it works, of course, in a different way. It doesn't communicate with, thoughts or words. It's just feelings that come up, and it's work to understand these feelings and interpret them. Yeah, getting back to the the left side or the right side, I would say the left side to me really feels like cheap delirium. It doesn't mean that when you're on the left side, that you are, like, you're an alcoholic, you don't have a job. Like, this to me can also be somebody who's on the outside very successful. I know a lot of startup founders who made a lot of money with their companies, and once they sold it, they realized where they really are, because all of a sudden there was a big black hole in nothingness, and they started traveling the world to experience something. But you can't run away from yourself. So the left side really can be something that you see in a lot of people around you who superficially look very successful, or like who would, after what society would call happiness, that you have a house, you have a family, you have a job, but that doesn't mean you're happy. That doesn't mean you found meaning in your life. It can even mean that you're depressed, and like, you don't know what to do with your life. And to me, this really is the dark side, when you feel the dread of watching yourself pissing potential in the wind, and at the same time, you're too afraid of who you could become in the future. You're just looking at yourself, like, you see yourself walking down that path, and you have no idea how to get to the right side, but you have the feeling inside of you that there is somebody else inside of me, and this person could be a much better person, and this person could do this and that. I mean, in my case, for example, it's the left side to me is being a consultant for startups, and like doing some interim CPO positions where you have a lot of stress, and you work on meaningless projects, like you do the next e-commerce, fashion, blah blah, ad tech, like we sell loans online. I don't know, like, I've worked for so many meaningless companies, and I always felt like in a cheap delirium, that it was a lot of money, and it was, I was superficially successful, but on the inside I was just like dying. And when I then look to the right side, and I imagine myself doing this here, for example, like talking to people and exposing what I think is the truth, then this would always give me a really lighthearted feeling, and I would imagine myself giving talks and like even like do public speaking or like start uploading YouTube videos and having my own channel. This would give me a lot of energy and a lot of motivation, but then I never really did it until it was almost too late, I would say. But I think most people that I see, they are not on the left side. I mean, they're on a path towards the left side, but most of us are in the middle, like we are way too comfortable to bring about change because, money is making us very comfortable, and, we have our fake security, like that we think, life is safe because we build up all these structures, but life is never safe. Life is constantly changing. And I think not following your path is a very safe path to meaninglessness. And for some people, it's just also not suffering enough. They feel that there is something more inside of them, something they need to look at, something they would like to explore, but then they're too lazy, too comfortable, and they're just it's just not enough pain to look at it. I see that happening a lot of times. People who go through a lot of pain, who like have incredible challenges that they need to tackle. Those are the ones who but only because they have no other choice. It's just like it's either this or I'm a veggie for the rest of my life. So they just have to find a way out of this. And to me, I mean, that's the gold you can find on the dark side, is that you all of a sudden understand the simple truth in life, the simple things that are really valuable in life. And this is very simple things like friends, family, like the little moments, like drinking a cup of coffee in the sun, and also being a good human, like being good to other people and helping other people feel better. You will instantly feel better if you help other people smile, or if you help other people with whatever. That's something that's so deeply entrenched in our DNA to be a good human. It's something that it is essential to our survival, but it's just not something that we feel today because we live in society. It's just the fake security that we got. But just think back like 10,000 years, you would live with I don't know, a group of 50 to 150 people, and that was your security system. So you couldn't just afford to be an asshole and not care about anyone, because that would mean your death. You had to rely on these people, and you had to be of service to these people. You had to be a useful member of that group for a very long time. And it's just for the last, I don't know how many 100 years that we live in a system that is not relying on communities anymore. It's just you have the government. The government takes care of you. And I think a lot of people forgot where we came from, that we're actually very social beings, and the best predictors for longevity are not like the way you eat or if you drink or smoke. Is human connection. It's how big your social network is and how deep these connections are. These are the two best predictors for longevity, and that tells a lot about being a good human. So even if you don't believe in being a good human, even if you don't believe in, if you're not religious or whatever, if you're completely utilitarian or nihilistic, if you don't think that life has any meaning, you will still be exposed to your DNA and the truth that is lying in your DNA. And for a reason, I call this the dark side and the force, because I really believe that if you are moving with the force of life, then you will have a much better life, and you will more easily find ways to happiness and fulfillment. This is a quote from Fight Club, and I really liked it because it Yeah, it tells so much about our society. Yeah. We're the middle children of history, man. No purpose or place. We have no great war, no great depression. Our great war is a spiritual war. Our great depression is our lives. We've all been raised on television to believe that one day we'd all be millionaires and movie gods and rock stars, but we won't. And we're slowly learning the fact, and we're very, very pissed off. So, I mean, this is so true because what I said earlier about, like living in a tribal setting, like there was always purpose. There was always a reason why you had to wake up in the morning and do something. And like our ancestors too, I mean, they had to live through World War II or whatever it was, or a Great Depression. And right now we don't have that anymore. We have the privilege to do whatever the fuck we want. And at the same time, this is making us depressed because we don't know what to do anymore. We don't have a reason to wake up in the morning, like there's your job, and maybe you even like your job, but what's the vision behind that, and why are you doing it, and what's the greater purpose? And I really, really think that I mean, there are still a lot of problems in this world. There's climate change, there's pandemics, whatever. I mean, there are a lot of reasons why you could wake up in the morning and do something, but it doesn't have to be that. It could even mean supporting your community. It could even mean teaching children, like refugee children, reading or whatever it is. I mean, there are so many ways of finding a purpose in your life, and it doesn't have to be a great war or something. And I think that's a good thing, but we just have to make use of our privilege. And at the same time, I think it's an obligation, because most people on this planet, they don't have the freedom to do that. They need to really work for food and shelter every day, and they don't have time to think about spiritual shit. So I think it's an obligation to us to make good use of that time and freedom. And I would like to dive into the patterns of life a little bit, that at least how I see it. And I created this really complicated linear graph here, which is basically just saying that life to me is a self-reinforcing process. Life is not random. It takes care of itself. It makes sure that life is supporting life. And if you look at nature, there is a lot of reason to believe that every part of the system in nature is not taking care of not only taking care of itself, it's also almost always taking care of other species as well. So they don't do it consciously, of course, but when a shark eats a fish, he's taking care of it himself or herself, and at the same time also taking care of the ecosystem, because it's eating all the old and ill fish as well. Old and ill fishes as well. Was that right? I don't know. So it's just humans who, I mean, maybe we also have maybe we're all more useful than we think we are with the way we act on this planet, but sometimes I don't believe that. So I would say that, I mean, we have this brain, we have this rational mind, and we can see what our actions are, what the result of our actions on this planet are. And so I think that if you move along with the force of life, if you help life to stay alive and to even develop on this planet, then I think you are in line with the energy of life. I mean, I have no scientific confirmation for that. It's just what I see and what I believe is true. And but what's also true is that life is never a straight line, right? It's always like these changes. It's always ebb and flood, night and day, boom and bust cycles in the financial markets. You always see ups and downs, and that is true for basically everything in life. Everything is energy, everything is frequency. There are no straight lines. Only humans make straight lines, but nature is always showing these sinus wave patterns. And I mean, we only see the small cycles, but there are, of course, also bigger cycles. The big cycle of the Earth, for example, is like, I don't know, 25, 26,000 years. It's called the equinox. It's one full year, for example. So, and maybe there are even bigger cycles that we don't know about. But you can almost always be sure that, there are cycles and they have an impact on what you're doing and who you are. And the funny thing about these cycles is that, once you reach the bottom, and of course you don't know when that is, but these again, it's like seemingly opposing forces, like night and day, but they need to be there to, create the cycles that we live in. And every extreme, so to say, has the potential to bring back the energy to the other side. And this is basically what the yin and yang symbol is saying, right? It's just, two seemingly opposing forces creating what we call reality. And they need to be there in the way they are to create the reality that we see. And when you know that, then things are, at least to me, getting sometimes a little bit easier to understand. And but if you think that this circle, is your perceived reality, then maybe this is stuff and I think I'm being really generous here with the red part. And this is stuff you don't know, and the rest is just stuff you don't know, Jon Snow. This is, I mean, most of the things around us we don't understand. And even if you look at 1 square centimeter right in front of you, if you dive down deep enough, there's so much stuff you don't understand and you don't know about. So just be aware that you don't know anything. The only thing you can trust is that, you see trends, you see cycles, and try to make use of that. Try to understand what these cycles are and how they are impacting your life. I mean, my favorite example is Elon Musk. Just imagine Elon Musk had lived 100 years ago, and he was back then saying oh, electric cars are a really good idea. We should build electric cars. Actually, there were electric cars 100 years ago. They had electric cars, but then there was a trend of cheap oil, and combustion engines. So the idea was good. The idea was definitely healthier for the environment, but the trend was showing in a different direction. And so, it was just not time for electric cars, and there were other forces showing in a different direction. And that's what I mean. And to me, life really is an uphill battle. And that goes back to the graph that I showed in the beginning, with the left side and the right side, the dark side and the force. That if you don't do anything in life, if you just sit around doing nothing, then this little ball will slowly start rolling down this spiral. And when you look at this line here, to me, this is not a line. To me, this is just a part of this spiral here, because life is spiraling upwards. It's becoming more complex. Species are evolving. It's expanding. And I think the same thing should be true for you. You should expand. You should progress. And if you don't do that, then you won't stand still, not doing anything. Just following the rules of having a job, building a house, creating a family. If you find meaning in that, good for you. But most people that I see don't find meaning in only that. And it really depends on what they're doing in their jobs. I think a nurse or a doctor, for example, will find a lot of meaning in their job, but not always. But it's definitely an easy way to find meaning. Whereas maybe a data analyst, or in my case, somebody who's managing software, has a harder time to find meaning in their lives. And so maybe they have to do it outside of their jobs. But what I'm trying to say here is that, the valuable goal that you're shooting at, sometimes very subjective, and it's really up to your own definition. But what I can promise you is that this ball needs effort. You need to push it upwards every day and do something to progress towards that goal. And I'm not talking about effort in the sense of, you need to work a lot, but more in the sense of, doing things that are meaningful, like, and that could be supporting your family, supporting your community, doing inner work, like reflecting, like finding out what's inside of you. That is the only work I think that is really necessary, because everything else will just, be a result of that. And that's the point where you could start to find your inherent truth and really try to understand what it is that, wants to break free from deep down inside of you. And this is a quote by Jordan B. Peterson. He's a really interesting guy. You can find him on YouTube, very controversial as well. But he's a clinical therapist in Canada, and to me, one of the greatest therapists I've met so far on the internet. And he's saying you might not believe in the divine, and you will still be depressed about the fact that you're wasting your time. So basically saying that, even if you don't believe in religion, and even if you don't believe in consciousness as a whole, or like whatever it is that you want to believe in, but if you're completely nihilistic and utilitarian, you will still be depressed at some point that you're wasting your time, and you don't know why. You don't know why it is that you're wasting your time, even if you're, superficially successful. And going back to that one, to me, it's really about differentiation between doing things right and do the right things. You can do a lot of things right. You can be, as I said, very successful by, society's standards, and you will still feel depressed, and you will still feel that life is meaningless, meaning you're on the left side. Whereas, if you do the right things, and it really needs to, like, that depends on how you see the world, that will bring you onto the right track. And of course, then in the middle of that is still the micro and the macro trends. So like, what is it impacting? What is it what is it that is impacting you directly? Like, what are the micro trends that you can see that have an impact on your life? Maybe you see yourself in a job that you really love, and you will think you think will add a lot of value to society, but maybe like, you're not allowed to do this job in your country, or whatever it is. Like, that's what I mean. But then there are also macro trends. For example, when I look at electric cars again, for example, I see that like 10 years ago, people were like, this is bullshit, like electric cars won't work. But if you looked at how fast the development of batteries was progressing, you could draw a line that was, not linear, but exponential. And you could say, okay, but this will change in 10 years. And if we start today, then we might be at the best spot in 10 years. So just to make a simple example. And in my case, for example, I have these 3 visions of myself, and vision 1 was, being a successful startup consultant. That was my vision, like, I don't know, 5 years ago. I wanted to make a lot of money. I wanted to consult startups and help them build software, and I did that, but it didn't really make me happy, and it put me on the path to meaninglessness. And I still remember very vividly that I was, moving in and out of these startups, and every day I would go there, and I would feel the stress that I would get from management or from investors. I was always like, why the fuck am I doing this? Like, this doesn't make any sense. And so I would say, okay, I was like, okay, how do I get out of this shit? And I started creating a freelance network and invite all of my friends, because I thought, okay, it's also good to help other people. So I wanted to make sure that freelancers around me and friends around me would get projects. I think, that's a good thing. I'm not only helping myself, I also help other people. And that, to my mind at least, is definitely more on the right side, more in the middle. But it still is, somewhat meaningless, not totally, but still I felt that there was something more inside of me. And vision 3 to me is being a preacher, being somebody who's taking his own experience and, taking that experience, mixing it up with scientific knowledge that I find on the internet, for example, or that I find in books, and creating something that is helping other people to move along that path on the right side, to find their inner truth, to dig down deep inside, look at who they are, and and really go up to their full potential. And I mean, today I'm still doing all three. I'm still on the very left side sometimes to make money and survive. I still manage the freelance network, which is, okay. And Vision 3 is really just what I'm doing right now. I'm giving talks, but it's not like I'm making money with it. It's just, I do it because I know that it will put me on the right path. I know that by simply performing that action, I will, get to know the right people. I will get automatically into situations that will help me move down that path. And at some point, I will make money with that vision, I know, and then I can, get rid of Vision 1 at least. And I know that will make me a much, much happier person and fill my life with meaning. And it already does. So I want to talk about the math of nature a little bit. You see in the middle, revenue minus costs equals profit. That's how humans think. This is how capitalism works. But capitalism doesn't take care of external effects, and that's what nature does. So in nature, nothing is lost. If nature produces something, then the waste product will always be recycled and be used for something, and it will always have a net positive effect on the system as a whole. So if you think about your own actions, then that could mean like thinking about externalities, right? So what is the external effect of what I'm doing? And companies, same thing, like what is the external effect of what we are doing? If you, for example, think that chopping down woods is a good idea, if you want to sell furniture, then yeah, do it, but take care of reforestation and make sure that there are a lot of trees that will grow for the one tree that you're chopping down. And also, if you think that paying your workers shit wages is a good idea, then maybe think again, because the social impact is maybe far greater than the money you're saving on your products. And also that, of course, has a direct impact on your workforce and on the countries you're operating in. So I would say that a much better calculation would be, and it would be something like that I call holistic capitalism. If you were to integrate your external effects into your calculations, then capitalism would be a total force for good. If companies would integrate the cost that they're now today socializing. I mean, right now, who's paying for the social and the environmental impact of companies? It's always the taxpayer. It's always the little people. And not all companies. Some companies are doing a great job at that. But I mean, there's even case studies saying that sustainable companies, companies who take care of social and environmental impact, in the long run are the more profitable ones. So it's very short-sighted to think that make a profit today and don't care about tomorrow. So yeah, I really think that this is a more holistic approach, and this is also more in line with how nature works. Nature is always taking care of itself and of their, so to say, waste products. But in nature, there are no, at least as far as I understand, there are no products or no systems, no organisms that have a negative impact on their environment. So the externalities of nature, like of organisms in nature, are always positive. They are net positive. They have a net positive effect on the system as a whole. It's just humans who produce systems that have a net negative impact. And so if you ask me, then nature is asking you to be a good actor, to be somebody who is, thinking through their actions. And, that is also true for, taking a flight, for example. If you think that it's a good idea to fly to Mallorca for a week, then do it, but compensate your carbon. And I think it's a very simple thing to think about. You have the privilege of being able to take a flight, then also take care of the effect on society and on the environment, because I think it's something very critical to think about. And I think that, about increasing complexity, I talked about that. And then, maybe we can make a little have a little segue into collective unconsciousness. That's something that Carl Jung talks about. He's a therapist, I think, from the 19th century. Very interesting guy. And he says that, that we have this collective unconscious mind, that there's like information is not lost, so as soon as you experience something, as soon as you find something out, then you're adding knowledge to that collective unconsciousness. So as time is expanding, as reality is expanding, we are also seeing increasing complexity, and we're seeing increasing collective unconsciousness. And for some reason, sometimes we know things that other people found out. There are like inventions popping up at the same time all over the planet, and they're like not really connected, seemingly not connected. So it's a little bit mystical now, but something to think about. And talking about the net effect on your actions, I think on the left side, your net effect is almost always negative. Even if you, coming back to the superficially successful person, if you work in a company that is not producing anything meaningful. For example, I work for a company that is selling fashion online in a subscription model. So their idea was to push people into a subscription, so they would buy more fast fashion, and that's it's not ecological, it's not sustainable, it's just trying to get the euros out of people's pockets. And but if you look at my CV, some people say, oh yeah, that you look like a successful person, you did this and that. And I was like, yeah, but not successful to my definition, because the effect in the end was net negative, and I want to be net positive. I want to change something, and even if that is just a tiny little bit, if it's just in my direct environment and I'm not saving the world, that's totally fine, but I want to be net positive. And so where do you start now? Where do you start to make better decisions when you think about your vision? And I think saying no is the one thing where you can start. Saying no to bullshit, saying no to negative people, that's really something you can start with, and reduce negativity in your life, reduce meaninglessness in your life. If don't say yes to every job opportunity. If you think the company doesn't stand for who you are, then don't take the job. Really, if you can afford it, don't take the job. And decision making, I think I call it rational intuition. Also somewhat counterintuitive, but I really think that thinking things through is critical, but also make use of your heart and your gut. So if you think about something, rationally think about it, but then also listen to what your system has to say to it. Listen to head, heart, and gut. And if there's something in you that says maybe not, then don't do it. I think it's a safe sign you can listen to. On the other hand, there are some, like when your whole system is like, hell yeah, let's do it, then I would be careful, because sometimes that is very much connected to pleasure, and your dopamine system is reacting to it. But I think the bad feeling is something you can really trust. And also when you think things through, then make use of the 80-20 rule. I think nobody really is a fortune teller. We don't know what the future will bring, and nobody can really make perfect decisions. It's just about thinking things through to really an 80% level. And once you've done that, then maybe listen to your heart and gut. And if there are no objections, then move with it. And once you are in the experience, you will make new decisions, and you will get new information about this new goal or this decision that you just made. And then you can, correct the course maybe, but don't waste time on thinking things through 100%. I mean, how many times have you thought about a problem for ages, and then you thought okay, 100%, I know everything now. And then you move into the experience, you do the task, you do the job, and you're like, oh shit, I didn't think about that. I didn't think about this, and I wasted so much time planning, and things change, So I think it's not only about making good decisions, about making rational intuitions and listening to your intuition. It's also about efficient decision making, because you don't want to waste a lot of time on planning and decision making. And always use your imagination. Like, try to envision who you want to become and what that goal that you're just setting is doing to your future, and how it feels to be in that moment. Because imagination is a powerful thing. It will give you the feelings that you feel in that situation, even if you're not in that situation, but just by imagining it. And that will help you make better decisions for sure. So this is already the end, and I would just give you a quick checklist of things that you can ask yourself if you have a couple of visions and you don't know what to do. Then first of all, really just think about human needs. Like, what is it that I need, and can I cover all of my human needs with this? And the same for your value system. Like, is it really reflecting my value system? If not, and maybe it's even objecting like one of your or is really in direct opposition to one of your values, then yeah, it's a no. It's a simple thing. And once that is done, I would think about micro trends. What micro trends are supporting or undermining this, and really be aware of your environment and what it could potentially do to your goal or your idea or your vision. And what are the bigger trends? What are the macro trends? Like, is it long-term? Can it be long-term successfully? And is it also, like, in the bigger picture, something useful, something that humanity needs, or that my community needs, something that will be not only successful tomorrow and next year, but maybe also in 10 or 20 years. And yeah, so what is the net effect on people? Is this something positive? Will it help people to, I don't know, whatever it is, that even like helping people smile or helping people be more successful in what they're doing, whatever it is. And that's really also, like, from your best knowledge, like, is this something that has a positive effect on people? And if the intentions are good, I think move with it. But sometimes you have good intentions and it turns out to be a bad thing. Like, the person who invented nuclear energy, I think he had something good in mind, but then it was misused by other people. But I mean, that's what I'm saying. You can never really think things through 100%. And of course, what's the net effect on the environment, and is that positive or negative? And something that you can always ask yourself, like, what's my primary goal? What is it that I'm here for, and what is it that I want to do? And just to give you an idea of what it was. So the first part, human needs and expression of my values, was, like, your value system and the conscious and unconscious feedback loop of how you project yourself into the future. And the micro and macro trends, always think of the wavy lines and riding the waves in a meaningful way. And the math of nature part, where you take care of the externalities of your actions. Yeah, that's it.